Astro on the platform side, CK Lee, Vice President of the Sports Business. From Fox Sports in Asia, Rohit Silva, Senior Vice President of Sports and Content for Asia Middle East. Andrea from MPN Silva. I won't try to to pronounce your last name, just right here. But come join us, please. And from the Sports Federation, representing the Sports Federation, Steve Dainton from the International Table Tennis Federation, as Marketing Director. So welcome, everyone. Now, the topic today is very general, which pretty much means I think we can talk about whatever we like, which is great. But I'd like to kick it off with kind of a look at the Asian sports industry and the size of the sector. We know that there's potentially more competition coming in broadcasting in Asia, yet we've heard from a number of people this morning that the Asian sector is small in comparison to other parts of the world. Sponsorship is nowhere near the size as it is in Europe, or certainly not in America. Share of sports watched on broadcast is much, much lower in Asia than it is elsewhere. So to prevent the situation where more parties are coming in and fighting over the same rights and driving up rights values, what do we do in the sports sector as key stakeholders to increase the interest in sports? What can we do? Who wants to kick it off? CK.
Okay. Like you say, it's getting quite crowded in the sports market. As a broadcaster in Asia, what we're looking at is smart partnership. I mean, there are too many people in the market right now, and we're always open to the option if people will bring value-added proposition into the chain. You know, if you have something to add to the value of the chain, yeah, there's always an option that we can work together and not, you know, kill each other over the prices and all that.
Okay, Rohit.
Right. From our perspective, Fox Sports is part of Fox International's channels portfolio, which includes a very large non-sports portfolio. The way we look at being able to contribute and grow the sports business in Asia is doing a few fundamental things, like Tong Hai mentioned, HD. 15th of August, we rebranded our entire network. All our channels are HD. We've launched more channels in that space. The second is, I think, to grow the sports pie in India, in Asia, you have to be able to provide a more holistic, immersive sports watching experience. So we have our digital products, Fox Sports Play. We've done a lot of innovations around that. So like the Formula One, we have 5 different screens which provide content which enable a viewer to watch the race at the same time watch the second screen. So like what CK mentions, you got to be, in order to grow the business, it's key for players like ourselves and anybody else who chooses to become part of the ecosystem to find a space where they provide real value to the platform, whether it's a platform partner, whether it's a telco, whether it's an advertiser. And one of the things we've done to grow our business, we've invested a lot in production, we've invested in new production facilities, and also on the rights front, we've invested a lot of money in rights. The reason being, we believe that if we can create the right production values and provide brands an opportunity to participate on a multi-market basis, and give them the opportunity to get promoted across a network which has 318 million cumulative subscribers in Asia, that's an opportunity to grow the business. So it's really, like CK says, it's crowded. The inherent issue we all face is that viewership of sports in Asia is much lower than what it is compared to other genres or other markets. So we have to really work really hard, all of us together, to try and address this situation.
Yeah, and Andrea, if I could just a minute. So, I mean, no, you're an interesting participant in this.
I think the audience is also less than other territories because the most interesting content is football, and normally is the challenge to watch football in the middle of the night here. And then on the other side, I think it's true that we need to improve the localization of the content, improve the language, improve the engagement with the audience. And in this, the media, the TV, the broadcaster, but also the sports authorities, the government, as well the other stakeholders, they should make a step up and help all the federation to improve the quality of the event, locally. For example, with the sports with the sports hub in Singapore, for sure we will see an improvement in the next few years, as we just discussed before.
Steve, from a federation level, you represent table tennis. Sports rights in Asia are very, very polarized, with football dominating Asia, cricket in the subcontinent. So table tennis sits in a second tier of sports, all trying to fight for increasing market share, increasing revenue from broadcasters. So what do you do on the federation level to make your sport more appealing to broadcasters and consumers? Are you changing the sport in any ways? How are you marketing it? Talk us through what's working, what's not.
Yeah, good question. Mainly from an Asian sport, I guess. We've been talking football all morning, so hopefully I can give a little bit of a perspective from one of the, like you said, not the top tier sports, but a sport that's relatively well known in Asia. What are we doing? Of course, excuse me, we have to look deeply inside our own federation and ask ourselves a lot of questions. How can we jump into areas that it's quite difficult for us at the moment? From the table tennis perspective, I think Mr. Tan from Sports Hub already said one of the difficulties we have ourselves as a sport is it's not very predictable. It's dominated by China. I speak about it just about every conference that I go to, that it's a Chinese-dominated sport. So we have to really look deeply if we can change that, try to change that. Of course, as an international federation, it's difficult to say one federation shouldn't be the best, but if we want to get into more broadcast space, we need to deeply look at that area, I think.
Okay, and from the broadcasters, what would you guys like to see to make table tennis more appealing to your audiences? Rohit, do you want to?
I think, not just table tennis, but taking table tennis example, I think when you look at the sport, it is quite, when you look at it on television, it's quite a fast-paced sport, quite difficult to actually follow the action very closely. So from a broadcaster's perspective, we would look at potentially a table tennis as an opportunity to work with a federation, one, long-term, so we can invest and add expertise that we've developed in other sports production to table tennis. So look at the fundamentals, look at how the sport is produced, look at the structure of the competition, look at having, if you have an issue where you have one particular market is very dominant and wins all the time, can you create a different subset competition which allows others to, other regions to win, and then, develop it further. So these things, I think all, whether it's not just, football has its place right at the top of the ecosystem. But if you have to really grow this industry, you have to be able to do innovative things, and including working with federations like a table tennis federation. The key to that is the federations also being willing to take a slightly longer term view. When you can't have your cake and eat it too. You want the absolute top dollar, and you want the rights holders, the licensors to invest in production and bringing innovation. It's got to be a partnership, and it has to be fairly long term. But I'm sure there would be people who would be ready in Asia who would be ready to work with you on this, and we certainly would.
Okay.
Have a deal.
Great.
Table tennis,
Fox,
for example,
has a global deal with table tennis. Congratulations. Rohit, I wanted to ask you about your Bundesliga deal, which around this time last year, Fox or FIC completed a 50-odd market deal across 4 continents directly with the Bundesliga at a significantly higher rights fee than they had previously been receiving collectively from all the different parties. Tell us what this does for Fox. What's the rationale behind this deal? How does this work apart from more money, how does this work for the Bundesliga? How does this drive up values? And how do you recoup your investment on such things? And are there more to come?
All right. I think firstly, it's a 21st Century Fox deal. All right. It encompasses around 80 territories, including the US, several territories in Europe, whole of Asia, including Japan. And so the key behind it is when you look at the Bundesliga, right? The quality of German football has always been very good. They play great football. We looked at this league and said our sister company, Sky Deutschland, is the domestic rights holder. If we get an opportunity to build out the league and add inputs from a production perspective, we could create much more value than if it were doing market to market. The second, I think, from both the Bundesliga's perspective and our perspective, is the prospect of putting the Fox brand, using the Fox brand to add add marketing pizzazz and and create a buzz around the Bundesliga, which is great football, but doesn't have the flair that some of the other leagues have been associated with it. So that was one of the reasons, and which again boils down to our place in the ecosystem of being a broadcaster, which has a fairly large sports business. We're very fortunate to inherit the ESPN Star Sports business, which is a good foundation to build on. And in the Bundesliga, we use that foundation to promote across all other networks. So even in the US, it will be promoted across all the other Fox assets, and very much so in Asia. So from a league perspective, if it works really well, where you can find a partner who can do a lot of things with your product and help you actually develop it as you go along. And obviously through that process, we believe we will be able to entice in Asia from a brand's perspective, we'd be able to entice a lot of brands to take a bold step. Because one of the things that happened in football is a lot of the rights have gone market by market. So as a result of which, the pan-regional sponsorship has reduced a lot. But football is the #1 sport. So for the first time, we will be able to offer a major European league for a pan-regional sponsorship basis, which creates a new opportunity as well.
So would it be fair to say that to make a proper return on the product, you need to spend a lot of money marketing it and increasing the profile? I mean, it's all very, very popular league, of course, but it does sit a little bit down the chain from, say, the Premier League.
Oh, absolutely, and I think that's why also the fact that an entity like Fox getting involved makes sense, because probably on a single market basis, it would not make sense for one individual player to invest the kind of money on increasing the profile of the product than one could if we were doing it on a consolidating the investments of 22 different markets and then doing it. Then you would be able to do a much better job. So I think that's where it works very well.
What about from the agency perspective, Andrea? Are federations getting value here, or are they giving up value? What can you add that would?
In terms of Asia, you mean? No,
Anywhere.
Referring to the Bundesliga, I think it was very important and smart move from Fox to invest in this property because of the football quality and the growing competition. But also in terms of content strategy, because I think it allowed Fox to coexist very well with the platform, which are their partner, because the platform budget is going to be invested more and more massively on the Premier League in the next round, and Premier League playing the same window of time of Bundesliga. So this is a good way to protect and coexist well on the platform. So I think it's a smart move from Fox as well from the league, because he can catch up with the other leagues, tend to a long-term partnership and improvement on the quality of the content.
All right, now sort of building on our theme of growing the sports sector, CK, Astro, arguably the most successful platform business in the region. You've done a great job with sports, but it feels like you're maturing as a business. In fact, you probably are maturing as a business. And it's unlikely that future growth is going to come from increased penetration, because you're probably already where you are. So to satisfy your shareholders and grow your EBITDA, you're really going to have to increase ARPU from subscribers. How do you plan to do that? How do you plan to satisfy shareholders?
What we're looking at is a different play of ARPU. Yes, sports rights is going up. The growth is not there in terms of subscribers numbers. Let me give you an example of what we did for the FIFA Football World Cup. It's not a one-size-fits-all kind of offering for all our viewers. We understand that our customers have a different size of the wallet, and we do offer different price proposition for all our customers. If you're our sports package customers, you get everything, the bells and whistles, all 64 matches, on-the-go service, companion app service, and all that. And then if you're non-sports customers and you just want to watch the World Cup, we have an offering for that too. You pay as a season pass. Even though you are not an Astro customer and you want to watch the World Cup on our OTT service, we have a package out there that's available for them. So it's important that we step back and have a look at our market and see that we really have to come up with different level of pricing proposition because we understand that there's certainly more ARPU out there. We just have to have the layer of offering out there for them to commit to.
What about things like digital? Are consumers in your market prepared to pay additional for digital services?
Right now, not yet. It's much more complementary. For example, on the Go service, we charge a very nominal fee for our customers to activate it. But you can see the take-up is starting to grow. And we use the World Cup to drive the numbers for our on-the-go app, for example. We had about 300,000 new downloads for our on-the-go apps just from the World Cup alone. And these guys are staying beyond because what we're offering on the go is also live BPL matches, Champions League badminton, and all that. So it's good that it's catching up, and we still have quite a way to go.
Sounds like quite a challenge to grow ARPU in the sports sector in Malaysia. I think we all share that frustration. Turning a bit more to digital, MP and Silva is becoming more aggressive in the digital space, some big ambitions from what we hear. If we look outside the sports sector to the general entertainment sector, we've seen some stunning examples of success, notably Netflix with an annual turnover of $4.5 billion, 50 million subscribers around the world and growing at a massive clip, and a market cap of almost 30 billion. So, Andrea, can anyone be the Netflix of the sports business? If so, how and under what conditions? And if not, why not? What are the challenges and complications?
It's an interesting question. I think the Netflix in sports could come soon, probably. It depends on big company, big organization, probably manufacture companies like it could be Samsung that is sponsor of the conference, or similar company like LG or Google. So those companies, if you think Samsung and Google, they already reach millions of hundreds of millions or more, probably billions of households, much more than any pay TV cumulated number in total in the world. So if we have to think which will be the next comer in sports, I will see one of those. And it will be easier for them to reach directly the consumer, the sports fan. And so I expect sooner or later to make a big step in an aggressive way.
And how do you do it? I mean, are these, we're talking about writing some very large checks with a very uncertain.
Yeah, I mean, to do it, they need to write a big check for top tier sports content. So I mean, top leagues in football, and take over the control. And eventually, later on, after in the second stage, discuss for a complementary strategy with channels or platform like Fox or I mean, I hope for them it will not happen because it will make their life more difficult. But if I have to think about something similar to Netflix, I imagine company like Google or Samsung to enter in the space.
And what about you, Rohit? What do you think? Can anyone do that, or will broadcasters defend their turf?
Well, I think that it's too early to try to predict whether anyone would be successful at that, even if they tried. But I do believe that the digital space offers immense opportunities for existing broadcasters, platforms to grow, and a lot of it can be done in addition to the existing subscriber base that they have. So if you look at what CK said, on the World Cup, they offer different types of viewing options. At our end, what we're trying to do is align our product for it to be ready for the digital space. So we cleared our channels for retransmission on mobile and internet, so that when CK is ready to expand his service, we can align with that. Yeah. For our key rights, again, we're looking at creating ways in which we can align with a partner strategy. It could be a platform, it could be a new entrant, it could be a telco. So if they want to offer those kind of services, I think the ecosystem of being able to talk to the customer and collect the money and all of that, that is something which is, we have diverse markets, and it's going to take it's difficult to predict who will be successful, and it could be a combination of existing players and some new entrants. But I don't really see there's going to be one, at least in the next 24 months, one entity which is going to come and just steamroll everything and become the...
Yeah, I agree. I think in the next 5 years, we won't see someone coming and buy out the rights and in an aggressive way. Probably will be more an integration. So the quantity of content is huge, is massive, and probably the digital platform will integrate and cooperate and working together with traditional pay TV and channels to offer a better service to the user.
Okay, thank you. Just staying with OTT, Rohit, in your markets, you currently offer your streaming services through your affiliates and your partners as part of your packages to their customers. However, technically, there's no need to do that through a platform in the future. So you can still you could go direct to customer if you wanted to. And broadcasters and channels and sport federations, is it something that they're going to be doing in the future? We've seen a little bit of that with the US federations like the NFL and NBA. Is it something we can expect more of, and under what conditions is it feasible, and how can you do this while maintaining existing relationships and making sure everyone shares in it?
Our approach is to align with our partners. So we're designing our products and we're making everything available in a manner which we can work with them. All right. You have rights holders like the NBA, the UFC, who offer a standalone OTT product, right? We firmly believe, as part of the broadcasting ecosystem, that these should be integrated with the overall bundle of services that's provided to the subscriber, all right? Over a period of time, I think the opportunities will emerge where jointly we would be able to explore with existing partners how we can go out to people who don't subscribe to pay TV and get them into the fold together to start paying for sports content, or deliver solutions to them where they could subscribe on a per event basis or a season pass for a particular set of events. I think these are things. We're not in the retailing business, right? So we want to play to our strengths, provide great content channels with local language versioning, great production values, and work with people who have the expertise and the contact with the customer in order to leverage the value in the market.
Okay. And CK as a platform, I mean, is it something you guys think about internally and fear, and how do you feel about the NFL or the NBA selling?
Yeah, it's all great that the platform is there. Rights holder can reach the customers directly, but the most important point everyone forgot is, what about localization? Vernaculization in terms of content, origination in a local language, using local talent and stuff like that. You promote and also market the product differently in our market. So who has the local expertise and knowledge, which obviously is the local platform. So it's not as easy as to say, yeah, I can go and get the customers myself. There's still another layer that you need to look at in order to make this successful.
Yeah, it's a very fair comment where localization, particularly in a non-English market, is fundamental and expensive to do. So Steve, tell us about your digital strategy. You guys do things a little differently at the ITTF.
Yeah, obviously for different reasons and maybe lack of penetration in some markets, we've taken basically we've got our own player and it's free to view basically. So anyone can view it around the world. I think we did that, of course, when we looked at the market in the beginning. We saw that pay-per-view, a few of the other similar sized federations than us had tried it, and it was difficult and not easy. So we took a more of an advertising approach. So try and build up our numbers, get strong numbers, and then look for advertisers to help us build on that. But I think that could change as it grows, but it's probably still some way to go before we start.
How would you like it to change? Sorry? How would you like it to change?
I think, of course, probably maybe there's opportunities there for us to actually, localize that content also. There is probably opportunities, and if we improve the product and improve the offerings, we can have part for free and part for pay. I mean, that would probably be the way it would go in the future, I think.
And while you're offering it free, do you get pushback from any of your rights holders, any of your broadcasters?
Yeah, of course, for some events, of course, we have to look at delayed broadcasts, or we have to look at geo-blocking or things like that. But so far, it's okay. But yes, you can see that more and more. There's that discussion when you're going into the rights discussion about who is going to own the online and the digital rights.
Okay. CK, turning to Astro once again in Malaysia, you've got a very dominant position in the market. However, a trend we've seen in a number of markets around the world is the emergence of the telco in the sports business. You know, we've seen it here in Singapore with Singtel, I guess originally in Hong Kong with PCCW, and most recently in the UK with BT, where you know, arguably Sky was as dominant or more dominant than Astro, and it would have been a hard bet that BT would have, you know, 3 years ago, that BT would have an established sports channel that is a proper player. Telecom Malaysia, a company twice the size of Astro in terms of revenue and EBITDA, has long been rumored to covet operating a premium sports channel in the market and compete with Astro. Is this something we're going to see? And what, if anything, has Astro been doing to build a moat around your business to defend against this possibility outside of lobbying and legislation?
Need to find out if anybody from Telecom Malaysia is here. No. Actually, Astro has been in the business for a good 18 years right now. By just having a rights for example, like English Premier League.
You look younger.
For English Premier League, yeah, that's all good and well. It's only for 3 years. What Astro has done is invested in facilities, production, talent, people, innovation for the last 17 years. That takes time. You know, it took us a good 15 years to really get it right.
You look at BP though, I mean, they probably had the same issue 2 years ago.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is, like I said earlier, it's getting too crowded. Malaysia is a small market in comparison to all the other big Asia countries. There's definitely a smart partnership that we can look at. For example, we wholesale 2 of our sports channels with English Premier League to Telecom Malaysia, and that worked out well for both parties. We sub-licensed Champions League to them. That worked out well too. So there's definitely room big enough for all us to play together in this market.
So it's a threat, but you know, you feel like you're well positioned at this time to perhaps defend against that. Yeah, okay. Steve, I want to talk a bit about the role of an agency. You guys currently market your rights through a sports agency, not Andreas. So typically when you choose to use an agency, you lose a degree of control over your content, which could manifest its way in certain ways. So a federation, if controlling its own destiny, could, you know, perhaps provide content at lower cost in order to increase hours or grow profile, where more or less an agency should be focused on maximizing revenue. So I guess my questions are, in using an agency, what sort of oversight can you maintain of your product? Second question is, you know, what are the non-cash benefits that you feel you could be getting but are not perhaps getting by using an agency? And then I guess fundamentally, would it be potentially sensible or feasible to make a decision to market your rights internally and take a, you know, 2, 3, 4, 5 year hit on revenues potentially, in exchange for having control of your own destiny and driving value for your sport? If so, how would you do it? And if not, why not?
It's a good question. I think almost all international federations, and probably the bigger they are, the more they think about it. But we, of course, occasionally think about whether we should do it in-house or using an agency. But of course, I think most federations of our size are not very good when it comes to risk, and they're not that willing to take a big risk. And as you said there would be a risk of a few years, maybe more, who knows, of a loss of revenue. And I think that's probably the biggest question that comes when we start to discuss this internally from the international federation point of view. What do we lose by doing it through an agency? I think what I've seen now by working with agencies more and more in the last few years is that agencies are understanding that question also. So they are trying to work more closely with the federations to fill the gaps that you may feel existed by using an agency. So, I mean, for example, free placement deals, which is maybe not an agency's on the top of their priority, but they understand that for the international federation that it's important. So I think they are adapting to that situation, and we see that I think more and more, and even having a deal with an agency that allows us to be a signature on the rights deals that they make with the TV broadcaster, which I think is important to ensure that we know exactly what's going on. Maybe the one thing that still needs to be addressed when we're working with agencies at the moment is tying in the sponsorship part, if they're not included in the sponsorship part of the media rights.
Right, okay. Okay, I think we have time for one more question, probably not, but we're going to ask it anyway. Andrea, role of the agency is kind of evolving a little bit. Steve's alluding to it in what we're talking about now. But you're kind of becoming a little bit closer to a broadcaster in a lot of your markets. MP and Silva launched some channels of their own in the region last year in Indonesia, which ultimately became part of BN Sports. What's driving that? Are we going to see more of it from rights owners in the future? And how do you deal with potential conflicts with platforms who are, one day you're selling content to them, the next day you're saying, well, listen, I'm going to keep my content and run my channel, thanks.
My opinion, the definition of agency could be limited when a company has 21 offices globally, worldwide, and operates in every market, investing $500 million a year in TV rights with a turnover over $700 million. So this to say that the size of the agency make also the professionality and the approach to the market and to be close to the market itself a way to provide a better service to the rights holder. Then depends case by case how we need to operate. For instance, we have the French Open, the tennis, the French Open, the Roland Garros, and as advisor, not as a buyout, but we play as an advisor. We increase 35% the exposure of the tournament and respect EBU. So before us, the tournament was controlled by the Free-to-Air Channels Association, and with us, we increase the exposure even though everybody was scared about this change with an agency. And also we increased 20% the revenue. So I think the combination could be reached if the work is done transparently with the rights holder and together on a day-by-day relationship and working very closely, having meeting together with the clients and the rights holder. So I really believe a lot in this partnership, in this triangle between the rights holder, the agent, which is very present to the market, and the client, or the TV client. So it depends. Then there are cases where we buy out, like in football happen quite often. For example, when you refer about the channel business that we launch in Indonesia, in Thailand, in Hong Kong, it's as a consequence of the big investment we have done with the Premier League in Indonesia, which we believed, and actually the result was very positive, that could be exploited in a better way, creating a joint venture and entering with the channel. So depends on case by case, I think. But when we are advisor, is definitely we don't need to open a channel. And when we open a channel, like we have done in Southeast Asia, is for a period of time, and then we will basically play a role of incubator for another broadcaster, in this case being sport. And after a few years, we will be back to a normal role of agency.
Interesting. Okay, there's some large red flashing lights on these screens down here, which I think means we're pretty much out of time. Any last thoughts, quick last thoughts that anyone has? And if not, thank you very much. There's certainly more we could ask this group, but we're out of time. Thank you very much, gentlemen.